You know what's the best part about Twitter potentially shutting down?
What?
Someone posted, "Hey, since Twitter is dying, who's gonna post balloon knot on the timeline?"
I don't even want to know what they meant by that. I have an
Welcome
idea.
back to the Cool Comic Show. I'm one of your hosts, Damien, and with me, as always, is Galactic Mr. E, aka Mr. E, aka E, and also at Jelani or at _ Jelani Carter, aka Jelani Hendricks, aka what's the
JJ Supreme.
JJ Supreme.
Mm-hmm.
We are here to talk about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. From the start, let's just say we're gonna talk spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, we're gonna go right into the spoilers.
See, at this point, it's been out for like a week though, so like
yeah, that's just true.
If you were really about it, you would have seen it by now.
Yeah, that's true. But yes, if you haven't been part of our movie reviews before, we have a little bit of a breakdown of the movie that E will go through, and we'll talk about things we enjoyed, things we didn't enjoy, and kind of talk about that. But I guess we can start off how we normally do. If you guys want to jump just briefly, if you guys enjoyed it, didn't like it, all that stuff.
I absolutely enjoyed the movie. I really enjoyed it a lot. I saw it in theaters with my brother.
Nice.
There was a crowd that was like half rowdy, half like super into it, which was kind of interesting, which I thought was going to kill my experience. I would say like the first 20 minutes, the couple next to me was just kind of like gossiping amongst themselves. And I was like, all right, I hope they don't do this the whole movie. But like once the movie started going, they got more into it, got more quiet. But, and I guess this is kind of spoilers. I will say sometimes I forget that the town I'm from, there's a good amount of Haitian people that live out here. And let me just tell you, all the scenes with Nakia being in Haiti went crazy in the theater. But yeah, I thought it was great, man. I thought it was great. They did the best they could do given the circumstances. And I think with knowing that, they knocked it out the park, because they could have not given us a movie at all. And they gave us a great movie with a pretty good story. And I thought it was great.
E, what'd you think?
I enjoyed it. I have a few gripes with it, but I enjoyed the pivot in the story. I thought it was a very powerful story about grief, and it was handled very beautifully throughout the film. There were parts where I felt like it was just another Marvel movie, but all in all, I had a very good experience seeing it. And I'd watch it again, honestly. I still think it's worth the watch. Like I said, I just have my few little gripes about it.
I feel that.
Same.
I really enjoyed it too. Obviously, everything, and we'll get into the details when he talks about kind of the breakdown, but I love Namor. Obviously, everything with him in the background and his Mexican, Hispanic, Latino, whatever you want to, indigenous, basically. A lot of that was cool to see. Overall, I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't realize it was going to be 3 hours when I went to go. I was like, oh, this is a long movie, but it kind of flew by for me. So I had fun. It was the music was cool. The visuals really cool. I had a fun time watching it. So
at a certain point, I was going to text one of our group chats like, oh, this movie's kind of long, ain't it? Just
it does. Like, and I feel like the length kind of takes you out of the emotion of it at some point, and that's one of my gripes about it. Is like, it's a great movie, but like it's a little long. Like like I say that without really having a resolution, because I don't know what like they could have cut.
Same.
But it just felt long at parts, and I feel like that took some of the emotional weight out of it for me. But yeah.
Do you want to get into? We'll kind of go through this breakdown, and any parts you guys feel about it as we go through, we can talk about and see how we vibe, see what we like, didn't like, all that stuff.
This portion, of course, is super heavy spoiler related because it is the full film.
Spider-Man shows up. I guess it's really a joke for this.
But yeah, so we start off the film, and they start off right away with a strong focus on the death of T'Challa. It turns out in the film that he does die off screen, which I'm kind of mixed. Like, I'm glad they handled it that way, but then like the back of my mind, I'm like, how else would they have handled it?
Yeah, it's like, what do you know?
But because there were some thing saying that he would die in battle in a blaze of glory, but then like he just kind of dies off screen. But I feel like them showing it from Shuri's point of view did hit that much harder, especially since the rest of the film focuses on her and how she is dealing with that grief. And you see her even in these opening scenes going through the stages of grief as she starts to bargain for his life with Bast, the goddess, as saying that if she heals him, she'll never question her existence again. And then, like, of course, he does pass away. And then we still see throughout the film, you know, she's a smart girl. She's very science oriented. So you do see that lack of faith throughout the film as well, which I thought was pretty good. But, you know, we had Namor. He was still the villain of the plot. But they, of course, had to change up the focus and the initial perspective. But we still got this war between two kingdoms, which I thought was really nice. After the opening scenes, we kind of bleed into the Marvel logo, which is just Chadwick Boseman with his clips and his quotes.
So, real quick, stopping there. So during this whole intro part and up to the logo, did you guys like tear up, get emotional, and everything like that when this was playing? Like, I know you said you kind of felt mixed about it, but as you were watching it, did it?
Oh no! In the moment, I was in it.
Yeah, no, like, it definitely hit.
It weighed on my heart. Like there was, because this is the first like film, at least that I can remember, where it had a huge impact on the Black community, and then the star passed away before the legacy could continue. And so this whole opening scene just kind of hit home that, like, you know, he's gone, but they had to move on, and they had to find a way to move on. And then when they showed the Marvel logo and it was just him and his quotes,
just quiet,
that shit was very emotional.
And it was like complete silence too.
Yeah, very quiet.
You could hear it in the theater. You could hear the silence.
Yeah. It definitely did it for me. I was like, wow, this is... I'm the same way with you, where it's like, I don't know how else they could have done it. Like, and they kind of, like, his reasoning, they talk about it later on, but like, he's passed away in the movie similar, like, to real life, you know, an illness that he kept quiet from his family and stuff like that. Or not from his family, but everyone else. And yeah, it definitely did it for me in the beginning. And I was like, man, this... All right, so we're only, 3 minutes into this 3-hour movie.
Yeah,
so,
man, we're already thrown in.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, so the movie actually picks up after the opening credits. It picks up a year later, and we still we see Shuri still struggling with her grief. She refuses to burn her funeral robes, which does become kind of symbolic throughout the film, and we'll touch base on that a little later as well. And then we kind of get a little bit of backstory. At the end of the first Black Panther, T'Challa brings Wakanda into the limelight, and he gives the world access to some of Wakanda's resources, except for the vibranium. And of course, we learned that the UN, some of the nations within the UN are kind of trying to steal that,
kind of.
So I thought it was a really powerful scene. Angela Bassett had so many powerful
I was going to say, we got to stop here. I was going to say, we got to stop. And shout out to Angela Bassett.
Angela Bassett had so many powerful moments in this movie, and this was just the first of many of them. She gives a speech saying, "We may not have a king, but we are not weak." And she just parades like the intruders and tells them to kneel. I was like, oh.
When that scene happened, I had the biggest grin on my face.
It was
I was just like, let these fools know that we are not to be messed with, bro. Like, we're still Wakanda.
She looked buff and like...
Yeah, like, we're still miles ahead of everybody. Like, this is not for play. Like, you guys think you guys want vibranium and you guys can handle that. But, like, like, if we gave you free access to this, you guys would have... This is like, I don't know, man. I thought that was really cool. And it really shows off, like, how, like, powerful the character is and how powerful of an actress that Angela Bassett is. Because, like, I would hate to be Angela Bassett's son in real life. I'd been like, if she, like, berated me, I would have been like, you know what, you got it, Mom. I'll do my homework.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You know
I'll do better. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like E said, like, this was the first of multiple scenes that she had through this whole movie that was like, damn, like, she's killing it. People said this might be one of the first if she does get nominated for any kind of award, like it'd be one of the first MCU awards. But
which is
Yeah,
crazy.
There's a lot of
like,
Oscar buzz around her,
This-
and I feel like there should be some around Shuri as well because
Shuri did well.
the way she handled the grief, like you felt that while watching the movie. I think
Yeah.
both of them deserve some type of recognition
Something,
from
yeah.
this movie.
yeah,
You're
Angela
gonna see
Bassett.
as a nomination.
Because I feel like this is the first Marvel film in a while that felt like something beyond a superhero movie.
Yeah.
Like you could feel the grief in these characters. It was a good character study, and you don't get a lot of that. Or at least I feel in Marvel movies. You know, you you go to see a Marvel movie, you grab your popcorn, you go watch people be funny and
Punching someone.
action packed with their glistening abs for an hour or 2 hours, and you go home. This one, I was like, damn, I'm in my feelings. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah.
like
Even
you think
Endgame
about it.
wasn't as this emotional, or Infinity War, I guess, when people first started like disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
this is a different kind of emotion.
Like, yeah, to your
Yeah.
point, these first couple scenes already, like between the opening and this, like it starts with you feeling sad and emotional, and then it gets to this scene in the courtroom, and you feel kind of inspired in a way a little bit by her, you know, and like proud. So it's like you're already on an emotional roller coaster, and it's only a few minutes in, you know. So
Exactly.
Very good.
Exactly. So after that scene, we find out that, you know, people gonna be people, and so they're still looking for vibranium. And it turns out they have found some outside of Wakanda on the ocean floor, and this is when we are introduced to the Talokanians. When I
Talokan.
tell you, when they started doing the siren song and the people started jumping
that
off
was
the boat,
so cool,
that was
dude.
so tough.
That was sick as fuck.
tough.
I love it. I was like, yeah, this is what I need.
We in there.
this is what I need. But I've, like, from their very first entrance, the Talokanians, they were a force to be reckoned with. They destroyed this whole sea liner. They pulled a helicopter out the sky. Like,
It was that whole
you
that whole
just
fight
know
was
shit is
just
about
cool.
to hit the fan.
Yeah, everything was sick in that whole thing.
Oh yeah, it really was, and I like the design. And so a little side note as well. So for those who are not familiar with the comics, they are actually Atlanteans in the comics. But Marvel, of course, has changed things up a little bit. Even though Namor came before Aquaman, of course, Aquaman came first in the movie universe, and so they didn't want to be tied too closely to what DC has going on. So, but I enjoyed the change.
I think it
I was
works.
about to
Like-
ask, like, how did you guys feel about the change? I'm not super familiar with Namor. I know he's like powerful, and he's in the comics. He's a part of the Illuminati, and like his whole deal, he's like Atlantis or versus everybody. But I think this is one of like the perfect examples of, personally, I think this is one of like the perfect examples of like changing a character for the better and like kind of and trying to fit your, I guess, newer version, because like the MCU is not the comics. It's like its own thing. And I think they did a really wonderful job giving like new life and origin to a character, but still sticking close to, I believe to like the comic book origins, and they knocked it out of the park. Like that actor bodied the role
Yeah.
of Namor, like seriously.
I liked it. I think it works. Like you said, DC did Aquaman, and I think because even with Aquaman, they changed how it was from the comics. Like in the movie, he was a Pacific Islander kind of more in a sense, and with them making Namor more Mayan inspired, it's like, all right, these are obviously characters with similar powers, I guess you want to say, but they're clearly different, and I think it works for both sides. Honestly, I liked it. Again, not even being biased with the Mexico influence, of course, but you know.
No, I definitely agree. I like that he has more. It's more grounded in reality. You know, of course.
I mean, he is some kind of
Suicide Squad.
inhuman, you know. So
No, I think he called himself a mutant in the movie.
Right.
yeah, he said he was a mutant. Yeah.
But yeah, so like I like that it's more grounded in reality. I like that, you know, we got to see in depth like why he has this grudge against humanity as well, which we'll talk
Rightfully
about a
so.
little later. And you know, I just like that he's a badass, and I like that they did keep the sort of like you said, Atlantis versus everyone or Talokan versus everyone mentality, because he is very much an anti-hero in the comics, in a sense that if it will benefit his people, he's on your side, and if it doesn't, he's going to war.
Should
Like,
take
and
notes.
we saw that play out.
Yeah, that kind of goes to the next point of like, this is the same conversation, but I do want to bring it up where he shows up in Wakanda to talk to Remonda and Shuri. My favorite part of that scene is like, obviously they have the whole conversation, but then Remonda was like, you know, how do you have a vibranium, or you know, you're lying, whatever. And Shuri was like, it's a simple line, but she was like, Mom, she's like, he's covered in it. And like, I don't know, it like set the tone of like, oh yeah, like he's not fucking around, you know?
Yeah, and it was very much an eye opener for Remonda as well, because like she and a lot of older Wakandans, they think they are the only source of vibranium in the world, and then this dude just comes out of the water like, hey. You gotta come get this scientist.
Yep.
She in my sea, and he's like covered in this rare material that you thought you only had access to.
Yeah.
Either you get her or I get her, and you don't want me to get her.
Exactly. But yeah, so in the scene where we are first introduced to Namor, it's where Shuri is for the first time refusing to burn her robes, which again we previously stated is symbolism in this movie. So she's having a heart to heart with her mom, talking about she can't get past this grief, and it's the first time, you know, we're seeing her. Well, it's not the first time we're seeing her fight that battle in the movie. So it's still pretty early on in the movie, and you still see she's pretty raw, dealing with her brother's passing. And then, of course, after Namor shows up, the queen goes back to the throne room and talks with the rest of the elders. And this is actually noted to be the last performance of Dorothy Still, who also passed away during the production of this movie. She is one of the elders that you see in Black Panther 1 and in this movie as well. So really sad about that passing. But, you know, it's been kind of a rough production of this movie. But it's a wonder how beautiful it turned out. So after the throne room, we finally get a look at Riri Williams. Shuri and Okoye travel to Boston. I enjoyed this scene.
This whole interaction, everything was so, all their conversations were perfect. It was so good.
They were. It was amazing. I love the casting of Riri Williams as well. I thought.
Do you guys know much about Riri?
Huh?
Do you guys know a lot about Riri from the comics at all?
I know a little bit, and I can run down this little thing that I have here as well. So Riri debuted in Invincible Iron Man Volume 3, Issue 7. She's a genius that gained early admission to MIT, which we saw in the movie as well. She stands as one of the smartest minds in the Marvel Universe. And of course, she has a Disney Plus show coming up. I think it's next year, is it?
Is it next year?
Is it next year or 2024?
Yeah.
I know it's coming up.
But yeah, her introduction, comics, I liked it, yeah.
Yeah, she built her own suit of armor using outdated Iron Man parts and scraps from MIT. Of course, this one was in the movie was done a little differently. She built scraps from old car parts. And she also has a heart-shaped arc reactor on her suit. I guess her exoskeleton. I don't think the first one was much of a suit. But I thought it was also interesting. She also has a scene in this movie that resembles Iron Man's first flight in his movie, where she loses altitude. I mean, she gains too much altitude and loses consciousness because she gets too high.
Yeah. But she took that in consideration too. She took that into consideration. And was like, I'm gonna pass out, but I'm gonna do this at the right trajectory so I can help my people out. I'm like, yo, she's so smart, dog. They did that perfectly, because she did that a few times in the movie. She was like calculating out loud. I was like, damn, that's pretty cool.
I was gonna say, this can kind of go into the next point. We were talking about like the car chase fight scene. Like, I think, like we said already, the whole thing of Shuri and Okoye going to MIT, their interaction when they're in her dorm room, and that whole interaction was very good. Like, it was, I was like, I love all these characters already, you know. And then of course,
tried to throw a heater at Okoye and just slashed it in half.
And then, like, when that car chase,
when
the
she
chase,
called Okoye's head ashy.
That's like, dude. She's like, oh, is the makeup wrong? Whatever. It was very good. And like leading up to when the chase starts, like you felt that tension, you know, like, oh shit, like, okay, chase is gonna happen, but like, even though you knew the chase was gonna happen, you still felt some tension of like, okay, they're having these conversations, like the government's coming in. It was all done very well, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. So in the aftermath of that chase scene, we have Shuri and Riri are taken to the underwater kingdom of
Talokan.
Nami. Talokan, not me forgetting how it's pronounced after saying it a million times. But they're taken to the underwater kingdom of Talokan. Okoye is stripped of her title, which was another powerful
Which we gotta talk
scene
about this scene.
I felt so
delivered
bad.
by
Gotta talk
Angela
about this
Bassett.
scene. Oh my,
Bro, she said,
this might have been the
"I've
best
lost
one.
enough." Oh my gosh!
This might have been the
that, I
best
think
one.
because that we saw part of that speech in the trailer.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't see it. We heard the voiceover, I believe. But just seeing that scene play out, it hurt. Bro, I was hurt for everybody in the room.
Bro,
Yeah, I think they
I don't know
did.
whether to be sad for Okoye or for Remonda.
Remonda, yeah.
And I was
Remonda,
just
yeah.
like, damn.
I think they both did a good job in the scene. It was like in a way, it was like you could tell Remonda did it. Obviously, she didn't want to, but she felt like she had to because of the situation. And it's like, and Okoye was like, I understand, but also like this was everything to her, and it was like so perfect. Like that scene alone is like, yeah, like I was already in the movie by that point, but it's like again another. You're already on an emotional roller coaster between the opening, the meeting Riri, the chase scene, and now this. It's like, man, this movie's already doing a lot.
Yeah, it was very powerful, and I she should just get all of the awards just based off that one scene, honestly.
Facts.
And so the last aftermath, Remonda goes to visit Nakia in Haiti,
Shout
which
out.
I thought was a lovely scene. We got to see what she's been up to, and part of me was wondering why she wasn't at the funeral as well. So I'm glad that, that was kind of explained, and
At
we'll
the
get
end.
into the full reason why later on. But it was good seeing her. It was definitely good seeing her. All right. And then in the underwater kingdom of
My
Talokan,
My God.
which it was so beautiful to see. I do wish, my only gripe was that it was a little bit lighter.
Yeah, that movie is
But
very dark. That first like hour is just very dark lighting, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is a little too dark for my lighting. My liking. I get it, but it's just like,
This was one of the
I
few
get
times.
the choice because it is, at the bottom of the ocean, but also like, I want to see all this beauty,
Yeah, it was one of the few times where I was able to compare something the MCU is doing that the DC universe has already done. I was like, obviously they're not going to do 1-to-1 of how they revealed Atlantis, but obviously Atlantis was very bright and very colorful and very like this, and this was more, like you mentioned, grounded in reality. It's like, okay, how would it actually look on the ocean floor? Like that makes sense, but at the same time, we're watching people, fly through the sky. We can get a little bit more brightness in here, but it wasn't like it wasn't like the end of the world, nothing like that.
I feel like a lot of modern portrayals of Atlantis or like cities like Atlantis is always like super futuristic and bright and like, you know what I mean? So I was like looking forward to seeing it, and when I saw that it was a little bit more grounded in reality, I'm like, okay, I get what the choice that you're making, especially after seeing Wakanda. Wakanda is that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just like, it would have been nice. But it probably didn't.
And I feel like you can kind of like through the darkness, you can see they still have those advances. I mean, it's not like they're where America is or something like that. They definitely have technological advances, but it's just like you can't see it. So
some of the swimming
I felt kind of gypped on the beauty.
I felt like some of the swimming they had looked kind of goofy too. And again, it's just me like looking how they were swimming in Atlantis. I was like, I feel like these people. I was like, you live your whole life underwater. You're swimming kind of goofy, but it wasn't. Like, it's not a deal breaker. It's a very small thing in a movie about people drinking magic flower. So I'm not gonna like trip about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So while we're under there, we find out that the reason that they're under there is his people were sick centuries ago. They were, the colonizers came over like, hey, here's some smallpox. And so they were all sick. They found this magical herb, of course, which they never really outright say it, but it's like the flower heart.
So what's it called? Heart-shaped herb? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the heart-shaped herb that they drink in Wakanda to give, the Black Panther his Black Panther powers. So this whole community took that. So they take this. Of course, it changes their physiology, and they become water people. Namor's mother was pregnant with him while she took the herb, which caused his physiology to alter or mutate.
This is where he. I was gonna say that's where he said it, right? Mutant.
Yeah, that is where he said it, and thank God they did not do
the X-Men
theme song.
Can you imagine?
Because like we get it at this point. Mutants exist. Thank you for not. Because I would have rolled my eyes in the back of my head.
Like it's one of those things too. Like
them doing that in Miss Marvel was fine. They had to do it once.
It's another thing where and we talked about it in Miss Marvel. Like this is a future conversation. Like how are they going to explain these mutants just hanging around? You know, like what's? But we'll figure it out. Anyways, continue.
That's true. And but a little bit about Namor as well before we move on. Namor is confirmed to be over 500 years old, and Namor means boy without love.
And then you'll see Namor,
which was explained in the film. But Namor in the comics was introduced in 1939. He was one of the first. If not the first Avenger. But Namor was introduced in 1939, where he was found by someone who was on a deep sea voyage. He ends up fighting against the Nazis in WW2 alongside Captain America and the original Human Torch. But of course, the backstories have been altered for the MCU for the better, I feel like. You know, we've seen Cap punch Nazis. That's enough for one film universe.
Can I say real quick, since we're at this part, he said it changed the backstory. Like, obviously, everyone's seen the movie who's watching this. Obviously, they talked about how Spain came over, and that was the whole, enslaving those people who were here. I went to go watch it with Kiana, and at one point in the middle of that, I looked over to her and I said, "This is why we don't claim the Spanish." Like, this is why. But anyways, continue.
But in the comics, he is also an anti-hero, which we very much got to see play out here as well. He has fought against the Fantastic Four, and he also has the hots for a little Sue Storm.
A little Sue action.
And as Jelani mentioned earlier, he has been portrayed as a member of the Illuminati. I believe it was only once, and then it fell apart, but I could be wrong. So correct me if I'm wrong. But he's been working for the good guys.
Hulk into the sky. They made a decision to send Hulk out into space, and I don't think that plan worked. So
there were some repercussions.
Illuminati is never wrong. What do you mean?
All right. Have they done anything right in any iteration?
True.
At this point, no.
But back to the present day not the present day, back to Namor's present day. Namor's mother dies, and he returns to the land to bury her and discovers their people are being colonized. Well, Namor said, not on my watch. And he destroyed the colonizers.
But, I mean, this was a good scene, though. Like, him pulling up, them pulling up out of the water, all of them. It reminded me of, shout out to Young Justice, that scene where, spoiler, Calder's undercover in season 2.
Wow, I haven't seen it.
Yeah. And he comes out of the water. It was a cool scene. Anytime someone comes out of the water like that, very cool.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I liked that, like you said, they came out as a unit, and they collectively just were like, all right, well, I guess we're murdering you guys.
Yeah. No issue either. He took them out so easily.
But yeah, I thought that was an amazing scene, and I thought it definitely it did a good job of laying the groundwork of why he is the way that he is. And getting to hear it from his perspective as well and see it through his eyes, I thought was really amazing.
Yep.
So next, Namor declares war on Wakanda and attacks with a giant tidal wave.
Well, right before that,
I skipped over.
I'm sorry. Leading up to that, he has that whole conversation with Shuri. Yeah.
So he says, of course, after he tells his backstory, he says that, a war with the surface is inevitable. And just having come out of that backstory and the reason for his hate, I thought, it made a lot of sense that, that's his mindset. Like, he's ready to go to war at any time. And he wants Wakanda to join him because they are two secret civilizations with the most powerful substance on the world. So, of course, he wants them on his side.
Which is important. Of course,
he says, before we can join task, Riri must die. And Shuri is just not on board with that plan.
Yeah.
So Nakia, who has been given the task to save Shuri and Riri, of course, comes to save the day, which I thought her whole secret spy mission was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially with her go-go gadget.
I'll say the little pod she had.
I was nervous, though. I was nervous because literally they were just like, they were having a whole conversation on why them going into Talokan is not a good idea. And it would just start some shit, and then she comes in, and then it starts some shit. And I'm just like, oh no!
Yes.
I was like, out in my mind, I was like, go back, turn around.
And it was definitely nerve-wracking.
When we're underwater too, I forgot to mention this earlier when they were exploring the whole city. The music that plays while he's showing her the whole city, I was like, this is perfect. Again, music to the whole movie, very good.
Shout out to Ludwig.
The soundtrack to this movie is fire. If you haven't listened to it already, it's on Spotify.
But yeah, I was kind of curious of I was like, how's this gonna go when Nakia shows up? I was like, are they gonna have an issue? Nothing. She's like, no, she just shot him and they got away pretty easily. I was like, okay, she's out.
She's a trained assassin spy.
Yeah,
I think former Dora Milaje. So it's like, she knows
so
how to handle
it definitely makes sense. She does have those skills, but she did not leave without, like Damien said, having to drop a body. And of course, Namor takes this dead civilian, well, not civilian, I guess guard, dead guard to mean war, and declares war on Wakanda. So back to where we were a few minutes ago.
We're back.
Namor declares war on Wakanda and attacks with a giant tidal wave. This is actually something that happens in the comic books in the Avengers versus X-Men run.
We just got an omnibus release recently. Go check it out.
Damien, he be on those omnibuses.
It's a pretty thick one too. It's like $120, but whatever.
So this was a hard scene to watch. I think this made me uncomfortable to watch. Like just seeing them run for their lives, children getting swept away. All of these people that we have only seen in powerful roles, kind of fearing and scattering. This scene really, I think this hurt me the most. And then, of course, at the end of this whole situation, Queen Remonda dies, saving Riri from drowning when the throne room is submerged.
Dog.
That hurt me. I was like, when they were trying to get her to wake up, I was like, she's gonna wake up, right?
Yeah. I was like, you're not gonna let Angela Bassett die in this movie, right?
Right.
So stopping here. So like you said, this whole scene, it was that weird conflicting feeling of like the spectacle of it was like crazy to look at, like the way the water's attacking, he's flying in the air, which side note, the way that he like jumps in the air I thought was pretty cool, like how he flies. But watching like watching these people that, like he said, he's attacking innocents in a way, and like just kids and older people, and it was like, damn dude, this guy is like, it was rough,
Yeah. It really showed his power in one scene, basically. And it showed that he was a man of his word, that he was going to bring carnage, and he did exactly that. But she just, when Remonda saved Riri, I was like, go ahead, girl. And then like they finally got into the throne room and she was still in the water. I was like, oh no.
It was like when she was swimming up too, it was a nice shot. Like they show like the wide of like her trying to swim up and everything. And like you mentioned earlier, like the actress, I forgot her name, who plays Shuri, like when she sees her mom, when she sees her mom is like, they're trying to resuscitate her and Riri, and she's like, they're trying to hold her back because she's getting emotional and everything. It was all done very well, and also at the same time hard to watch.
Yeah, Letitia Wright, she, like I said, she deserves something for this movie, because like I felt her pain the entire film. It was really rough, especially that scene. It was rough to watch. Also, after the queen dies, we kind of find out that Everett Ross and Valentina Allegra de
Shout out to Valentina.
Let's go with the full name.
Yeah, it was. I mean, shout out to her.
I was like, huh? Why is this? Why is this a thing?
I was like, I guess they're exes, but okay.
But so she does end up arresting Everett Ross because he has been up to this point helping Shuri and Remonda. He's been in contact with Wakanda this whole time.
Yeah, he had Shuri's beads when she got kidnapped.
And but come to find out, Valentina bugged the beads, so she knew the whole time that he was in cahoots with with them, and ends up arresting him after the queen's death. We'll go ahead and skip to this part because I don't feel like we'll talk about these characters anymore.
Yeah,
but
they're just they're a setup. Yeah.
Yeah, he is broken out by Okoye at the end of the film, and his next appearance will be in Secret Invasion along with Valentina, and this could be a setup for Valentina being found out to be a Skrull, because in the comics she is sleeping with Nick Fury of all people, and then they kind of try to kill each other. She tries to kill him, he retaliates, and she dies. But when she dies, it's found out, basically. When she dies, it's found out that she's a shapeshifter, Skrull, and something similar may happen in Secret Invasion. We don't really know, but it feels like it's leading up to that.
That would be cool.
Yeah, so it feels like I feel like the only reason that they stated that they were exes is so
there's a connection.
So Everett Ross has something to do in Secret Invasions, and I'm guessing it's going to have something to do with that. All right.
Yeah, it was all just set up stuff for like them in the future. They were just there, you know.
Yeah, they were just there. That's that's the best to put it, because we'll see her as well leading the Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts. Yeah,
later in this phase or in the next phase. Okay, so after that, Shuri picks her work back up on the synthetic herb. She's like, and I feel like this was the perfect point to go start back on that, because we see her working on it in the beginning of the film, trying to save T'Challa's life. But of course, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, like 2% or something like that.
Yeah, and she's beating herself up, and that's one of the biggest reasons of her grief, is because she knows she has the skills to make this. She knows she could have done something to save his life, or at least she feels like she could have, but she couldn't get it in the time that he had left to live. So she of course stopped working on it, but that was fine. You know, at that point they still had the queen. Wakanda still had its power, even though it didn't have T'Challa. So now the queen is gone, and Shuri's like, I have to do something so the world knows that Wakanda is still not weak. And she said, it is time for the Black Panther to come back. She makes the synthetic herb in a nice little montage.
3D printer coming out, because she had Riri there too, helping her.
Riri's there at this time working on her suit as well. So they're gearing up for battle, basically. So they don't really specify how much time passes, but
Sometimes.
you know, Riri's building her suit, and Shuri is working on the synthetic herb, which she does finally make. And she travels to the ancestral plane, and who does she see? None other than Killmonger himself.
So, did you guys assume it was going to be Remonda, like everyone else?
I did.
Because the way they showed hit the back of his head, they made it look like Ramonda's like crown or her hat.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. So
So I'll say that even though I am a fan of Michael B. Jordan, right, and Killmonger was cool in that first movie, I did think his cameo was a little corny, but it makes sense. Like, especially when they show the rest of the conversation that Shuri and Killmonger have later on in the movie.
That definitely
it makes sense why that happened. But I was just like, come on, dog. You're gonna bring bro back? You know what I mean? Like, I get it, but like it could have been something different. I did think it was cool that since it was she took the like water-based vibranium in order to make the
it had like water around.
Exactly. She kind of swam up into the ancestral plane. And I did think that scene, like that whole conversation, especially when like they started really getting into like a heated argument, no pun intended, and then like the fire goes off in the background. Yeah, I thought that looked awesome. Like,
and
I thought
then,
that was
the music picked up too. Like
yeah. I thought that looked so dope. But I was just like, you know, I get it, but you know, and also that part low-key got spoiled to me because I was on Twitter.
Did it really?
And I saw Killmonger trending on Twitter, but I didn't understand the context. I just saw his name. I was like, I'm going to just keep on scrolling. And I just thought, like, since Black Panther was out, they would talk about him. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter's dying anyway, so... You
know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a cool scene. Like, I thought it was going to be Remonda, but I was like, oh, this makes sense. And, like, in my theater, because we went Friday night. We didn't go Thursday night, like, opening night. But we were there Friday night pretty late, but it was still packed. And everyone, like, cheered, like, oh, my God. And, of course, everyone, like, was getting... you know, hot and heavy for him and everything. But yeah, like it made sense, like you said, like of like, oh, she still has like this this anger, so it makes sense that he's going to be the one that shows up.
Yeah.
But leading up to this, real quick, when she was like laying down to drink the stuff, like just more of Riri just being hilarious, like just one-liners here and there. Like it was just, it was very good. That was cool stuff in there. But yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. And I really don't know who I was expecting to show up. I really don't. I couldn't tell you. Like, part of me hoped it was Remonda, but like in the scene, like in the moment, you understand why it couldn't be. You know, was Michael B. Jordan, like, should he have been there? I think it made sense watching the film. Did I care for it? I don't know.
I think even speaking outside the movie, like obviously him was, a lot of people was the best part of the first one, so like they're gonna find a way to bring him back in a way.
Yeah. And it definitely made sense to the movie. It made sense to the plot, but I feel like I think this is one of those parts that I mentioned early on, just felt like another Marvel moment.
Oh yeah, super Marvel.
Like there was nothing special in the moment to me. It made sense for the plot, but like it's not why I cared about the movie at all. And I'm sure I may be in the minority on that because, like you said, people love Michael B. Jordan. He was fantastic in the first movie. Still,
we saw like
one of my
3
favorite
trailers
parts of
him.
the first movie. Just not this part in this movie, you know? But yeah, so this all leads to a lot of powerful stuff.
Another funeral.
And then Shuri comes back from the ancestral plane. Of course, at first she doesn't want to say who she met, and honestly, I don't blame her. But we also
twice she didn't say.
Yeah,
exactly. But we also finally get to see the new Black Panther suit, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
It works for her. I like that they incorporated her little. I don't know what they're called, but
like
her
her shooters.
Shooters,
her mega busters,
her percussion blasters, or whatever they're called.
Cyclops.
But I liked it. I like the new suit. I like the gold stitching. I just liked it. It works for the character. And I liked her entrance into M'Baku's domain.
Say, like while all this was happening, after that Namor's attack on Wakanda, then they were like, all right, well, the elders reached out to M'Baku to be like, hey, can we seek refuge up in your ice area? And they were all talking about like, what are we gonna do? And then she pulls up and was like, hey, I'm here.
Also, shout out to Winston Duke, killing it as M'Baku as always. But I thought he
had some funny ass lines in this one too.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I think even him kind of taking on that like pseudo mentor big brother role of M'Baku, and like trying to be like counsel to Shuri or just be helpful to everybody, because like even though he's from Jabari land, which is like a completely separate part of like Wakanda and everything, and he has like his own people to take care of and worry about, he still understands the importance of like being a part of those elders and like seeking like and helping, you know, Shuri. You know, I thought that was really cool. I think that was a good balance of like him staying true to that character when he was first introduced, and then seeing that evolve, you know, because I feel like even in the first movie when T'Challa was like super hurt and he was like in Jabari land and like getting like healed up, like you can kind of see that change of like, I shouldn't just be the, like, you know, the cocky abrasive guy always. Like these are still people that I care about. These are still like, you know, my
still his people.
Yeah, you know. So I thought that was cool.
Exactly. Yeah, I really enjoyed how he kind of, like you said, stepped into that mentor role almost instantly. Like at Remonda's funeral, he was instantly like, "Hey, where's your head at?"
Yeah,
basically.
He's like, "What's the plan?"
And
he was like, "What's the plan?" You know.
It's like I'm with you, right or wrong, but like, you know, just gotta know where you at. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so I like how he became Shuri's voice of reason when, you know, she's young still. She's still a young person, and now she has to take on the weight of this entire civilization.
Just had to bury her mom.
And she has lost everyone that knows her in a year. First she lost her brother, then she lost her mother, and now she has to lead these people. And so, like, she has to not only lead these people, but she also doesn't really believe in tradition. You know, she wants to bring out these new things, and I'm sure she already sees like the struggles with the elders and everything. And, you know, I'm sure she's stressed out. So for M'Baku to step up immediately and be that voice of reason, I thought was fantastic. And he did a phenomenal job doing so.
Very good.
And Speaking of that, he also tells her, hey, you might not want to kill this guy.
Yep. He's like, I'm with you, but also like,
Yeah.
You know what they call him?
the fish man.
Exactly. So he warns that killing Namor will risk eternal war, and like you kind of see that anger in Shuri, and which is why like the Killmonger thing sort of makes sense. She's like, okay, like,
She's like, I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah, so you can definitely see her pain, and he definitely sees her pain. Is trying to talk her off the ledge, and I think that is one of the brighter relationships in this movie. But of course, once you get a super suit, you got to take it into
Final battle.
And that brings us, yes, like Davian said, to the final battle. We have the Wakandans luring Namor into a moisture trap device, which I will say, this final battle.
So I was just going to ask, before we get into the details, how did you guys just, like, during the battle and immediately after, how did you, like, feel about it? Like, what was the immediate feeling?
I did not care for the battle itself. I thought when you have these superhero movies, you have to have a spectacle. That was a spectacle. And that was the Marvel cut and paste that I kindly, it's just there. It was there. What I did love, though, was the fight between Namor and Shuri specifically.
Yep.
I thought their back and forth during the battle and how they came to terms with the end of the battle, I thought their fight scene was amazing. I did not care about the Wakandans on the ship.
What did you think about Okoye's suit?
I did not care
Her
about the Wakandans on the ship.
Not the Beetleborg suit.
I do. It was comic accurate.
Yeah, of course.
For sure.
So, but like, I didn't care about that part at all. And I'm not gonna lie, Riri's suit was one of my least favorite things about this movie.
It looked like the Super Sentai suit. It was just. It didn't have the. It just looked like a. I don't know if copy and paste is the right word. It just looked like a toy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it looked.
It was
like,
very shiny.
And I know that the visual effects of this movie were, they were impacted by COVID. So I didn't. Yeah. I tried to suspend some disbelief.
Well, they came straight from She-Hulk. Remember the last episode?
And, She-Hulk should have talked to the AI and said
KEDIN.
said to fix that. Yeah. But I thought Riri's iron suit it missed the mark a little bit to me. Like you could clearly see that it. I mean, like it's CGI, but like it felt like mid-2000s.
Yeah,
CGI.
considering the standard that the MCU has made to this point, it was like, oh, that's surprising,
Yeah, it was glaring how surprising it was. And I think that's why I did not care about that fight at all.
Yeah.
But like I said, the fight between Shuri and Namor.
Yeah. Before getting into that fight, the fight that was happening on the ship that was building up the whole movie between Okoye and Atum, I think his name is, or Tuma, I could be wrong. Like their fight on the bridge, way back when they were trying to get Riri was sick, but then their final fight was kind of just like over. And I don't know if it's because Okoye had like that full suit on and he kind of lost a little bit of like that heaviness of the fight, but I thought that fight was going to continue, like be of a bigger kind of thing than it was, how it ended.
Yeah, you know what it is? Listening to both of you guys talk about this, I think what probably the problem is, and it's just occurring to me now, is that we already got the super intimate fight scene, the big spectacle fight scene.
Yeah.
Like, we got all those action sequences like 20-30 minutes prior in the movie. So just to see that again, I kind of agree with Ease. Like, this is like the copy and paste. Like, it's a superhero film. You need to have a big, huge final boss battle. But it's like we kind of had like 3 of those before we got here. You know
they did it so well. That's the thing.
You know what I mean? They were already satisfied. Like you were saying, Damien. Like that first fight scene between Okoye and Atum was badass.
So good,
awesome. It really showed off the prowess of the Dora Milaje, and also that the Talokanians cannot be messed with either. We've been training too. Like, what do you think this was? You thought we just
also shout out to Namora. I loved her character. Like his lieutenant, she was hella cool. I liked her a lot.
So I thought that was like really dope, especially just like seeing the weight of those hits, and it's like this is still a normal person going up against a superpowered person. It's just like damn.
Yeah, like the Dora Milaje are just warriors. Like they're
exactly.
They enhance nothing.
But yeah, I mean, we already got those before we got to the big final fight. But yeah, I do agree with you, Eve. Like that last fight with Shuri and Namor was dope. Like it really, I think it just really like showed off the best of all of both of those characters, especially like the science brainy side of having like the dehydration room, and then just like it kind of showed off that she's not really a fighter, but she knows how to fight because like you know, Namor's a little bit more refined with his movements compared to
He was
Shuri.
fucking her up.
Yeah, but they were like really coming to blows, like real blows. You know, like you can tell they were both exhausted and like at their limits, and still just like, we got to do this, dog, because you know we got people to protect. You know?
Yeah,
and you really
they were both
that.
fighting for the nation.
I was gonna say that it led to one of my favorite parts, more beautiful parts in the movie, where she has him pretty much dead. I know this is gonna be your next point, Eve. Like she's almost killed. She pushes through and has him bested, but she spares his life. Like she has those flashes of like she has a flashback to when he was showing her like his people and everything they're doing, and like she immediately has a parallel to her people and the kids and their culture. And it was like it was one of those moments where obviously this is a fictional world and a fictional thing, but it was that, at least for me as someone, you know, me being brown Mexican, it's like, hey, like there are a lot of, obviously there's a lot of similarities between us, obviously there's a lot of differences, but we shouldn't be fighting each other, you know, like there's a lot bigger issues that we can fight together, you know.
Yeah,
I like that moment.
Exactly. I love the parallels. I thought that was done, like you said, I thought it was done very beautifully. And I think it was a highlight of the film in my eyes. And of course a highlight of that final fight, because you feel like you were a part of both of these civilizations. And it's very clear, like you can take the message outside of the movie theater. It's like, why are we fighting when we've lived these similar roads, you know? So yeah, I very much enjoyed that point.
Then they pull up, they're just hanging out on the helicopter, whatever it is, and there's like 4 Wakandans at the top of that ship, and then like 80 Teleconians are like, all right, we're done.
Riddle me this, huh? Riddle me this. If you're going up against a nation of water people, why would you take the fight to the water?
You know,
I mean, they were trying to
Wakanda's got good
lure them
technology,
away
you
from
know?
Wakanda. Like I
is
get
true,
it,
yeah.
but it's like still.
Like, I get it, but like also like you are in over your head. Like you didn't think that they could destroy your boat in the water. You know?
It's and now that I think
Smart
about it,
scientist,
like,
maybe not a smart tactician.
yeah.
You know what I
Now
mean?
that I think about it, and we're talking about it more, and this could be way off, I feel like, and it wasn't ever explicitly stated in the movie, I feel like part of that fight, like Namor's people might have felt this way, but I feel like the Wakandans weren't really trying to kill them or trying to like best them. I feel like they were just trying to, I guess, hold them off until Shuri can come to an agreement with them. It was never explicitly stated what her plan was going to be, whatever. Because obviously she, at the end when she was about to kill him, that was her choice to be like, am I going to kill him or am I going to not? But I think it just could be a thing where, like we talked about earlier, there were so much satisfying fight scenes earlier that I felt like this fight scene, none of these fights felt heavy aside from Shuri and Namor. You know, none of the fights on the ship felt heavy. It was just like, oh, we're just throwing punches, but we're kind of just fucking around, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I see what you're saying. I don't think I agree with that though, because like Shuri didn't know what she was doing until you know, those final moments. So I think the Wakandans were really just about to get mollywopped.
Oh no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like if they would have went
know,
that route of like, oh, we're not gonna try to kill them, we're gonna like, if that was the plan, that would make more sense. But since it wasn't a plan, it was never a thing.
I do remember a moment where I think either M'Baku or Nakia was like, I hope Shuri like gets the job done or she comes back soon, because like I don't know how long we can like keep them off. You know?
That's what I'm saying.
I
Like it was never
maybe,
explicitly stated like this is what we're gonna do. It's like we're gonna try to fight, but they kind of, you know, again, it ended up with 4 or 5 Wakandans in that corner, and that was it.
Yeah, I don't know. Agree to disagree on that one.
Yeah. Shuri and Namor, cool fight.
After the fight, once you know the dust is settled, we get a couple of quick flashes of like a where they are now type thing.
Also, real quick, did you guys think she was gonna kill him or no? Did you guys think I thought she was gonna kill him. I thought he was dead. I was like, oh, he's dead.
I was in Marvel mode at that time. Like at that point, I knew it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
It was like I felt the emotion behind it, but I think like at that point the movie had run its course in my mind.
It's like 2 hours,
and
45
that's
minutes.
what I meant earlier when I said some of the emotion had kind of drained out of me by that point.
That makes sense.
And I was just like, it's Marvel. She's you know.
Yeah, and he's too
get there.
He's too big of a character to just.
Oh yeah, I was hoping they weren't gonna kill him because I was like, he's sick, he's dope.
Yeah. No, there's no way. I mean, all the real Marvel big bads are like off planet. You need at least like one or two that's like
Someone
on
hanging
planet.
around.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Finally,
Right?
after a decade. But finally, Marvel didn't kill him.
That's what I'm saying. They kill all their good villains, but yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, so we get some flashes. We see that Namor's people may not be 100% on board with his plan, but he assures them that this alliance is needed. Hell or high water for Telecon, because again, Wakanda is another one of a civilization just like them. They got vibranium. They far exceed the surface world, and I'm sure in Namor's mind, he's still preparing for war with the surface world. So it's better to have Wakanda on his side this way than have to fight them.
Which I don't think Wakanda's going to be cool with, him, because he's like, oh yeah, because they obviously, like you're saying, she was questioning like, why did you leave her alive? Why did you surrender? Whatever. And he's like, oh well, the world's going to come after her. He's like, she needs an ally. And in my mind, I was like, you killed her mom. Like, she's not going to go with it, dog. Like, you.
Yeah, like.
You got a big storm coming.
I feel like they're preparing too. So it's like.
Yeah.
I mean.
I'll be interested to see that.
I don't think he's.
I
don't think she's as dumb as he thinks he is.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I think I'll be curious to see how that fight's going to be in the future down the line when they eventually meet again.
That definitely speaks to his cockiness, which we definitely saw throughout the film. And another thing that we see in those flashes, M'Baku becomes king. Yep. He doesn't really like get the ceremony, but he does challenge, Shuri, and of course Shuri is not there because she's off in Haiti, which we'll get to in a second. So it's basically saying M'Baku is the new king of Wakanda.
Is that what that
which
Yeah, because the one's there to challenge him, or he challenged Shuri, but she's not there, so he gets it.
So she's just the Black Panther, but he's the king of Wakanda.
Yeah, pretty
exactly.
Much. Okay.
And then we also see Riri get sent home with no prizes.
No prizes, no money.
With the car that they destroyed. So they fix her car and say, Riri, you got to go leave the suit behind.
Good luck. Figure it out.
So I'm sure this is going to set up like the Disney Plus show, which I think will get a proper Mach 1 suit since she's, building it herself without
Power
the
Ranger
vibranium. So yeah, I thought that was cool, and hopefully, God willing, the CGI on the Disney Plus show was a little better than this blockbuster movie.
I mean, I liked her though as Riri. I thought she did a great job.
She did a phenomenal job. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Okay, but now I guess we can talk about the elephant in the room. The ending of the movie. So this movie only had one post-credit scene, but it was probably the best post-credit scene of any Marvel movie. So we open, Shuri is going to Haiti to visit Nakia. And she is finally burning her funeral robes. We have finally come full circle. She is finally dealing with her grief and moving on. And just as she gets to move on, Nakia pops up with...
Real quick before you get there. So as she's moving on, she's burning the robes. We got a couple more flashbacks of her brother. And like, this is where the emotions came up again. I was like, damn, like it's... Because now it's flashbacks of them together. And like, and from the first movie, you're like, it's... Yeah. That's like that. This shit is hitting after 2.5 or 3 hours. It's like, man, this very good. But yes, continue.
But where was I? Oh yeah. So right when Shuri gets ready to move on, Nakia pops up with T'Challa's son,
a little lad.
It was very emotional, and I like that they threw in the part that Remonda got to meet him before she passed.
Yes.
This was rough.
Yeah.
This was a rough little scene. Jelani, how'd you think?
I hate to be a hater, but I thought that was a little corny. I was like, oh, of course. Of course.
So does
He
T'Challa
has-
have a son in the comics? Do you guys know? I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, no, not with Nakia.
Okay.
I'll say that, and then
Yeah.
I'll
Okay. Yeah.
elaborate in a minute.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jelani, continue.
Yeah, I thought it was a little corny, not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. Okay. It makes sense from a Kevin Feige Disney conglomerate standpoint. It's like, hey, we got $1 billion franchise. We can't let
Yeah.
this name die. Like, I get it, but we'll just, you know what I mean? So it's not completely recasting because I don't think East said it yet, but T'Challa's son is pretty much named T'Challa as well, T'Challa Jr. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, fine. Also, I will say, my theater, complete quiet, right? And then the kid is like, this is our son. And then there was a small little bumbaclot in my theater. And I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, because she said
Shout out to
his
my
name
fellow
was,
Jamaicans. But I
yeah,
was
she
just
said his
like,
name was Toussaint originally, right? Yeah, his
Yeah.
Haitian name.
Yeah. So it's just like, you know, I get it, but it was just like, really, dog? Like, of course, out of nowhere, y'all had a baby? Sure.
Well, I definitely see your point.
What do you think, E?
Damien?
I'll say, what do you
what
think?
did you have to say?
Well, because I was gonna ask you guys. This kind of goes into a question I wanted to know of, like, recasting T'Challa. And I know originally when he passed away, that people were like, "No, don't recast him." But I feel like people are kind of opening up to recast him, and people are talking about, like, you know, Batman gets recasted all the time, Superman gets recasted, all this stuff like that. And obviously, Black Panther situation's different because it was the first time Black Panther wasn't anything live action, and it was such an iconic thing. And I was just curious what you guys, how, if you would, like, want him to be recasted. I mean, obviously now with the story where they're going, they don't really need to, but I've definitely gone back and forth, like, of like, oh, they should recast him, they shouldn't recast him, and kind of like it's not an easy situation, obviously, you know.
It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't
Pretty
situation.
much, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
I
think
agree.
by this point in the movie, I was already into it, and I was like, all right, you know, like we'll see what they do. I mean, he's a kid, so I don't know how the age thing's gonna work out, and some age jump in Secret Wars, I don't know, but I think just given the emotions that just happened with Shuri burning the robes and a couple more flashbacks of Chadwick, I was like, I think at that point I was already just emotional, like, all right, I'm into it, and then it is what it is, kind of thing. Like, but what Jelani mentioned, it makes sense of, like, yeah, they're trying to be like, this was more of a decision to be like, okay, how do we keep this name going, you know?
Yeah, I like the choice. Like I said, I felt like it was a good point to put it as well, and it gave Shuri hope, which I think made me like it more than the actual, you know, what was happening.
Yeah.
Because we had seen her struggle throughout this whole film. She was grieving the entirety of the film, and then we didn't even get this scene until
Yeah.
after the film was
After the
over.
movie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I felt kind of like I said, I felt Shuri's hope in that moment, and I think that's why the scene resonated with me a little more than it might have with other people, because I can agree that it is it's a Marvel movie moment, it's a Disney movie moment. It's meant to make you feel good, and it made me feel good.
She did well. She did well, like, showing when Nakia told her, like, you know, Remonda got to meet him. Like, she did well acting of, like, she was very happy about that, and, like, it brought hope to her again. I definitely got that from her. And then,
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that character
Exactly.
needed it. Good lord.
Good Lord.
So sad.
But to
Rightfully
answer
so.
your question, I don't believe he has a son, but he does have a daughter in the comics. But
is it with Storm?
the daughter is with Storm. So that is what a lot of people are kind of speculating now. Like you said, we think there may be a time skip somewhere down the line before the X-Men are, like, properly introduced. I don't know how it's going to work out. It may have something to do with you know, these worlds colliding. Once the worlds collide, you know, an
that'll
older
be
T'Challa will be here. But you know,
That's a
people
good
are
point.
speculating that now that we do have T'Challa back in the Marvel universe, once Storm shows up, we could get a little, you know, a little action.
I say she's gonna get with him.
Which I was always holding out hope, you know, because the Storm Black Panther relationship is
Very
one of
good.
my favorite Marvel
Very
relationships.
good.
So if we do get that scene played out, I hope it happens. Like, you know, I'm sure Marvel's original story definitely has to have some tweaks to it. But, you know, I'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes together. You know, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the story part of it.
That was.
I think overall, I think we had a good time. There was weird moments here and there, but I think it, in terms of the beauty of it, it was definitely a good movie for me to go watch and enjoy and have a good time.
Yeah.
At least for me.
I can definitely, and like I said, I agree. It's worth the watch. By no means a bad movie.
Yeah.
I have some gripes. It does run a little long, but the heart behind the movie is so powerful that I think it far exceeds those shortcomings.
Yeah. Like you guys said, like I really did enjoy the movie. And also, despite all the gripes, I personally don't know how I would have handled the production of this film or the story or anything. So I feel like they made the right decisions for them and for the story ultimately. So it doesn't really matter how we feel. Like, I can't think of an alternate way of going about what they had to do, you know? So
Plus
I think in
COVID
that
on
way,
top of
they
it,
knocked it out
like,
the park, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is this a
definitely
movie you
enjoyed
guys
it.
would want to go watch again? Like,
Oh,
soon?
for
Like,
sure. Absolutely.
want to rewatch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if I had
definitely
time,
watch it again.
I would go back to the theater and watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially if it comes out on like DVD and streaming. Like,
Yeah.
definitely running it back. Like, it's
It'll
definitely
come
not
to
a
Disney Plus
one
like
and
in a
done
month
movie.
or something.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some Easter eggs? Some Easter eggs?
Yikes. Yeah, well, there were a few Easter eggs that I saw online. I just wanted to throw in there. So Shuri has an AI now, and we got to see the AI in action through Riri's iron suit, which I don't know if she's going to continue
Played
using the
by
AI
Trevor
down the
Noah.
road. Oh, I didn't know that.
He's
Nice.
the voice
No
actor.
wonder he left the Daily Show. He's getting a Marvel bag.
Yeah.
So Shuri's AI may have actually been created when she was studying the Mind Stone, which I thought was a pretty cool little Easter egg. But another Easter egg during the Anderson Cooper's 360.
Shout out Anderson
interviews.
Cooper.
Shout out Anderson Cooper. If you read the taglines down at the bottom, one of them mentions Scott Lang's book, Look Out for the Little Guy, which can be seen in the D23 Quantumania trailer. So we know from that trailer that he has a book that he's written, and I guess it's newsworthy. It's a good book.
Real quick, are you guys excited for Quantumania at all?
Yes, 1000%.
I am. But
I like Ant-Man as a character, especially how he's portrayed.
I do.
in the MCU.
I like Ant-Man, and I love Paul Rudd. But I feel like most of Ant-Man's movies so far have been Marvel copy and paste. So
I'm excited for King. That's it.
I'm excited to see the movie, but my expectations are very mid. Another one of the taglines at the bottom of Anderson Cooper's show mentioned Asgard, which, of course, Thor came out earlier this year.
Asgard.
You know, and then the last Easter egg, which we mentioned a little earlier, is a shout out to the comic Avengers versus X-Men, where Namor attacks Wakanda with a tidal wave, much like what happens in the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the only three little. I'm sure there's more.
I'm
Easter
sure there was
eggs.
like some number somewhere that someone is going to be like, well, in 1932, volume whatever, you know, but
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that was Black Panther. Any other lasting remarks you guys want to say about the movie? Any other things that we had mentioned that were fun for you? Anything like that? I thought it was
for
cool.
me.
I liked it. I'm very curious where they're gonna go with this T'Challa Jr. storyline. They're gonna are they just gonna give the storylines we know with Storm and everything to him? Or are they gonna be a time skip? Are they gonna recast him eventually? I don't know. We'll see. But
It's gonna be big ass
well, that was
shoes
Black.
to fill, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. Well, that was Black Panther. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting. Again, big shouts out to E and Jelani. They are currently in the middle of watching season 4 of Titans. What episode is it coming out? Just 5, 6, something like that?
4 will be out this week.
Yeah, so they're watching that. If you guys enjoy Titans, which it seems like a lot of you guys do, Make sure you guys go check those videos out. And then in a couple of weeks, we are going to be, Jelani and I will be starting a watch of Doom Patrol on this channel. That'll be the next video you see me in because I am moving next week. So you're not going to see me in the videos for a little bit. And then Doom Patrol. And then we have a couple of things. I do want to get back to doing some My Cool books for you guys. We'll get those in December. I have one idea already I want to do. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting. Make sure you like and subscribe. We mentioned it at the beginning. Twitter is maybe dying. I don't know. But I'm going to put a link to all of our Twitch channels in there. E and I recently finished Gotham Knights. Very fun. Go watch our VODs on that. Jelani's going to be squeezing in some streams soon. But we'll put all our socials in there for you guys can check them out. And we'll see you next time in Titans episode 4?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.